Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another edition of the Kitchings Table. I'm your host, Earl Kitchings, as usual. Always glad to be with you, whether it's on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, Roku TV, GPAC TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, whatever the medium, we're happy to be with you on this day, March 1st, 2022. Our topic today is titled The Supreme Nomination. Supreme Nomination. And this all has to do with history being made by our current president, who once again has struck, I guess, if you want to say gold, you can say gold, but it struck gold from the standpoint of having another Black woman come forth to serve our country at the highest level. On the last day of Black History Month in the year 2022, history was made as President Joe Biden nominated Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court, setting in motion an historic confirmation for the first Black woman to sit on the highest court in the nation. He was quoted as saying, "Today, as we watch freedom, and liberty under attack abroad, I'm here to fulfill my responsibilities under the Constitution to preserve freedom and liberty here in the United States of America. For far too long, our government, our courts haven't looked like America. I believe it's time that we have a court that reflects the full talents and greatness of our nation, with a nominee of extraordinary qualifications, and that we inspire all young people to believe that can one day serve their country at the highest level." Ketanji Brown Jackson currently sits on the Washington, D.C. Federal Appellate Court and has been considered the front runner of all the nominees by Joe Biden, and who will be serving as the replacement to Justice Stephen Breyer, who is retiring. And the Senate hopes to have a verdict confirmation by mid-April on Judge Jackson's rise to the Supreme Court. This will be a first. It will only be the third time, if she is nominated and selected, that an African American has been on the Supreme Court, and the first time a woman of color will be on the Supreme Court. So our topic today is supreme nomination, and this is to give you some information and facts about the highest court in the United States of America, which is the Supreme Court, and how it works, and the courts that fall under it and how they work. And then we'll talk a little bit about the people, the members of the Supreme Court, and who they are, and what the relationship has been from a diversity standpoint in this country for over 300 plus years, even 400 years since the Supreme Court has been in effect, since 1789, I believe, but 400 years. And we're just now getting to this point. However, a culture of patience has been the African American people in this country, because we have had to deal with so many obstacles for so many of the wrong reasons to just rise for equality and justice. But as the great Maya Angelou once said, "And still I rise." So it is great to see that our women are rising to the forefront. They are becoming strong members of our society, strong business leaders, strong political leaders, strong leaders in all professions. And we need this trend to not only just continue for people of African American descent, but people of all colors, of all ethnicities, because as the great experiment, and I'm sure some of you may wonder when I say the great experiment, what that means. The great experiment of democracy in the world, the great experiment of diversity in the world, in a democracy, is in this country called the United States of America. And it continues to fight those battles against those individuals and factions who do not choose to, do not want to, do not believe it is right for there to be diversity like this country has, like no other country has in the world, for people who are just Americans, all Americans, to have an opportunity and a right to participate in the freedoms and the free will of a country that has you to say an oath, a pledge of allegiance. You have to say an oath of office when you take a position in the political ranks. You have to swear on the Bible when you're in court. So when we talk about all these things that cause us to want to have diversity, this country was not just built on one culture alone. It has been built on many cultures, and it will continue to be built, thrive, and survive on the melting pot of what this country has been for over 200 plus years, 300 years. You know, the melting pot called America, the Statue of Liberty that asks you to send your huddled masses to this country. With open arms, this country has embraced diversity, people of all ethnicities, religions, cultures, backgrounds. This is the great experiment to see if something like this truly can work. And everything in life has challenges. Nothing comes easy because, as they say, if it was easy, everyone would do it. A baby does not come into this world without challenges. It has to basically fight and be coerced and pushed into this world in order to have its place. Nothing is different about a country that continues to have diversity issues, but continues to fight the good fight. For those people who want to stand on the side of right, goodness, truth, justice, fairness, equality, that fight will continue. And as long as they have faith in a higher being, that fight, as long as it may seem that sometimes it's not going to be won, the good fight continues to be won. It may take a little bit longer, but the good fight continues to be won. Otherwise, many of us of color would not be in this place and time as we are today. Things would look a whole lot different. So the Supreme Nomination is our title today here on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. Always glad to have you. So I'm going to go by the Supreme Court because being that appellate court judge Ketanji Brown Jackson has been nominated for the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, as they say. I just wanted to give you some information, background, so you'll understand the importance and significance of the Supreme Court and the people who have served and the people who continue to serve and will serve in the future, long after some of us are gone. So Article 3 of the Constitution establishes the federal judiciary, Article 3. And Article 3, Section 1 states that the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. Although the Constitution establishes the Supreme Court, it permits Congress to decide how to organize it. Congress first exercises this power in the Judiciary Act of 1789. This act, the Judiciary Act of 1789, created a Supreme Court at that time with 6 justices. It also established the lower federal court system. The lower federal court system. So The Supreme Court came about in 1789 by the Judiciary Act by Congress. And since then, it continues to serve as the top law, top court of the land. The justices, as it stated, when they first started, they had 6 justices. Now we have 9. Over the years, various acts of Congress have altered the number of seats on the Supreme Court from a low of 5 to a high of 10. Shortly after the Civil War, the number of seats on the court was fixed at 9. Today there is 1 Chief Justice and 8 Associate Justices on the Supreme Court in the United States. Like all federal judges, justices are appointed by the president and are confirmed by the Senate. They typically hold office for life. So when we talk about Supreme Court justices being nominated and approved by the Senate, first by the president's nomination, then by the approval of the Senate, understand that once they get on the Supreme Court, they are there for the rest of their life until they either retire or they pass, or some other situation happens that causes them to be removed for life. And when we look at the cases they weigh in on, they can have dramatic decision and impacts on the way of life for many people in this country, the way of life for how things are done in this country. So you understand that this is a very important body of people who do a very important body of work. The salaries of the justices cannot be decreased during their term of office. Cannot be decreased. These restrictions are meant to protect the independence of the judiciary from the political branches of the government. Now, we would like for the Supreme Court justices to not have any political baggage, any political viewpoints. Let them be unbiased as much as they can. No one can be 100% bias free. So let's make sure we understand that. Even though they serve on the Supreme Court, no one, not even the justices, can be 100% unbiased. So we hope that their biases or their political but their political actions don't weigh in. You know, whoever they may vote for, whatever side they may privately decide to support. Hopefully that does not weigh in on their decision. But you know, as we all should know by this time, that is not always the case. And there have been times where the Supreme Court has not always been seen to be doing the right thing for people in this country. As they face this now critical decision to stay or overturn Roe versus Wade, which is the abortion issue, to stay or overturn it. And it comes down to something very simple. The rights of a woman should be her rights as it relates to her body. And they are even looking at the fact that even if a female has been raped or taken advantage of by relatives, that she does not have a decision in whether or not she wants to keep that child, because she just does not. So this is one of the probably major decisions that the Supreme Court will make in the upcoming months, whether they're going to stay or overturn Roe versus Wade. The court's jurisdictions Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution establishes the jurisdictions, which means the legal ability to hear a case of the Supreme Court. The court has original jurisdiction, which is a case tried before the court over certain cases, such as suits between two or more states and or cases involving ambassadors or other public ministers. The court has appellate jurisdiction. That means the court can hear the case on appeal on almost any other case that involves a point of constitutional or federal law. Some examples include cases to which the United States is a party, cases involving treaties, and cases involving ships on the high seas and waterways. The Supreme Court weighs in on those jurisdictions. That's where they have their jurisdictions. But when we get to the cases, this is when it becomes a little bit more interesting and important so that we understand how this goes. Now, let me just preface one thing. The difference between committing a federal crime, state crime, or local crime. State and local are under almost the same results. Federal is different. For state and local convictions by a court, you can have parole. You may get parole. But if you do a federal crime, the law requires that you do every second. There is no parole for a federal crime. So be mindful of where you are and what you do and what type of case it may be. If you do a federal crime, then if you get the sentencing from that, you will have to do every second. If they say 20 years, there will not be parole. You will do all 20 years until the last second. So under cases, when exercising its appellate jurisdiction, the court, with a few exceptions, does not have to hear a case. Does not have to hear a case. The Certiorari Act of 1925 gives the court the discretion to decide whether or not to do so. In a petition of a writ, a party asks the court to review its case. The Supreme Court agrees to hear about 100 to 150 of the more than 7,000 cases it's been asked to review each year. So if it's 7,000 cases have been submitted to the Supreme Court, it only agrees to hear 100 to 150. 100 to 150. So that's about 2%. The role of the Supreme Court plays an important role in our constitutional system of government. First, as the highest court in the land, it is the court of last resort for those looking for justice. Second, due to its power of judicial review, it plays an essential role in ensuring that each branch of government recognizes the limits of its own power. 3 branches of government: judicial, executive, and legislative. The legislative is Congress, the executive is the president, and the judicial is the Supreme Court. When there is a problem that either Congress or the executive branch has, it can take it to the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to rule. So as we hear the former president talk about wanting to go to the Supreme Court and they turn down his case, which means that it must be heard and it must go forward, this is where the Supreme Court plays an important role. The third thing the Supreme Court does as a role is it protects civil rights and liberties by striking down laws that violate the Constitution. Strike down laws that violate the Constitution. And finally, it sets appropriate limits on democratic government, not the Democrats, but on democratic government by ensuring that popular majorities cannot pass laws that harm or take undue advantage of unpopular minorities. It sets limits, ensuring that laws which affect minorities won't be passed that will prejudice the outcome. In essence, it serves to ensure that the changing views of a majority do not undermine the fundamental value common to all Americans. The fundamental values common to all Americans: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and due process under the law. Those are the fundamental values of the United States of America. And the Supreme Court is there to protect those three basic things. You have the freedom to say what you want to say. You have the freedom to worship how you wish to worship. And you have the freedom to be processed duly under law. And that means if you don't have an attorney will be appointed to you. One will be appointed for you. But you must go through the judicial system. They just can't say because you committed a crime, you automatically go to jail. There is due process. It must go before a court to be decided. So the Supreme Court hears 2% of the cases that it is presented with each year, but it must weigh in on significant cases that affect the outcomes of a lot of serious issues here in this country. And as we prepare for the selection of the next Supreme Court justice who's been nominated by the president, thankfully, it is not taking on the same path it took on when former President Barack Obama had the opportunity to nominate a Supreme Court justice, and Congress, specifically Congress that was held by the majority of Republicans, played a game that kept that nominee from ever reaching the point of serving on the Supreme Court. However, under former President Trump, 2 nominations went through with not any problems. So again, the volatility, the very fine line that is called our court system when it comes to some things must be upheld. So you do understand where the Supreme Court is and where it stands. However, there are Supreme Courts in every state. There is a state Supreme Court. There's a state Supreme Court. So, and no judge likes to hear its judgment overturned or appealed. And when we are having trials by jury, we hope that the jury will be diverse enough to make a fair decision for whomever is before it. For many, 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 many years, the jury, as they say, a jury of your own peers, those peers did not look like the people they were prosecuting. It was basically white men. Those days are over to some degree. The fact that we must continue to fight for diversity, justice, and truth in this country continues to this day. So we keep fighting that fight. Stay abreast of what's going on. Read some newspaper articles, and read some magazines, read something to educate yourself as to what's going on. As we wind down the first segment of our show today here on the Kitchings Table, as I stated earlier, there are 9 Supreme Court justices. There are 8 serving right now. We're waiting on the 9th one to be selected, and hopefully Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson will have her day. She has to go through a process of interviews, And once all the interviews have been done, the Senate can then make a decision. I pray that the decision will favor her selection to serve, and I pray that she gets on there and will do the job that we believe and know she can do based on her background of coming from an area where she's been an attorney fighting for the rights of those whose rights have been subject to unfairness and injustice. She's fought as a defense attorney to fight the fight for people who can't fight for themselves. So 9 justices make up the Supreme Court with 1 Chief Justice. The Honorable John G. Roberts Jr. is the 17th Chief Justice of the United States, and there have been 103 Associate Justices in the court's history. 103. This country is approaching 300 years of age, and as a country, not just because it's been here. And it's only had 103 associate justices since the Supreme Court justice was brought into effect in 1789. So here are the list of the Supreme Court justices, including the Chief Judge, which is John G. Roberts Jr., Clarence Thomas, Stephen Breyer, Samuel A. Alito, Sonia Sotomayor, Elana Kagan, Neil M. Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett M. Kavanaugh. The last 3 names I gave you were judges who were appointed by the former president, the last president, President 45. So just like our politics in today's time, political lines have basically given this country a dividing point, Democrat or Republican. So when one party has more representatives than the other, decision seems to go down party lines. And right now, it appears that the Supreme Court is a 5-4 imbalance, or balance, as you would say, with the 9th person on there being the Chief Justice, who decides if there is a tie. But when they go down this party line to make these decisions, and the judges are of one political party, they tend to, not always, follow that. However, the Supreme Court recently has favored justice and fairness in some of the decisions it's made, because it's not ruled in favor of the former president for things he wants. He's trying to stay out of harm's way, but that will not happen because justice will prevail. So they have said that he must, do those things which he did not want to do. So it's great that the Supreme Court justice is favoring this particular decision on this particular solution. However, as I stated, the Roe versus Wade decision is coming up, and that is going to be a major decision by the Supreme Court. Some courts and some states have already overturned Roe versus Wade, making it difficult for women to make a decision about what they want to do about bringing a child into the world that they maybe don't choose to because they were exploited, raped, sodomized, whatever. And then the choice for a woman to make a decision about what she would want to do with her body. This is coming up, and if the courts rule in favor of overturning Roe versus Wade, I would say that the country is going to be in a lot of flux. A lot of women are going to be very, very upset. And there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be upset because Roe versus Wade has stood for over 50 years now, or at least 50 years. And it is, a decision that was made that was in good faith, a good thing, in my opinion, because some things that a woman needs to make, some decisions that needs to be made by her are hers. Just like we all have the right to do what we choose to with our own bodies. It may not be the right thing to do, but it is my right, it is your right to do what you choose to do. And this is the fight. So we're getting ready now to go into the pantry part of our show. That's the halfway point where we talk about something a little bit online with what our subject is today, which is the Supreme nomination, the nomination of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to serve on the Supreme Court. So this is the Kitchings Table here on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. Facebook Live carries us. YouTube carries us. GPAC carries us. GPAC 23 carries us. Roku carries us. So we invite you every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on Awesome Radio 106.9 to join us to see if there's something that we might be talking about that is of interest to you, piques your curiosity, informs you, makes you laugh, makes you feel not so good, whatever the feelings. But we're here to bring you the news and information that we feel are important and we feel that can add some light and some uplifting or knowledge to each of us. Knowledge and wisdom go hand in hand. The more knowledge you get, the more wisdom you can gain. Wisdom comes from experience. Knowledge comes from books. So we're getting ready to go into our pantry portion of our show. And we're going to deal with the the court system, the federal court system of America, before we close out on our show today, which is about the Supreme nomination. So the federal court system has three main levels: district courts, circuit courts, which are the district courts are the trials, circuit courts are the first level of appeal, and the Supreme Court is the final level of appeal. There are 94 district courts in America. 94. We have 50 states, but there are 94 district courts. There are 13 circuit courts. 13 circuit courts and just one Supreme Court. So if you're not satisfied with the outcome of your decision in the district court, you can appeal it to the circuit court. If you're not happy about that decision, your final effort will be to take it to the Supreme Court. Federal courts are courts of limited jurisdiction, meaning they can only hear cases authorized by the United States Constitution or federal statutes. The federal district court is the starting point for any case arising under federal statutes, the Constitution, or treaties. Not something that happens in the state, not a state infraction, but a federal infraction, a constitutional infraction, or a treaty infraction. And of course, the treaty infractions probably are more for Native Americans in this country who have had to fight their fight a lot differently than other people of color in this country. Cases that are entirely based on state law may be brought in federal court under the court's diversity jurisdiction. Diversity jurisdiction allows a plaintiff of one state to file a lawsuit in federal court when the defendant is located in a different state. So if you have a gripe or a beef with someone in a different state and you want to file it, you have to go through a district court. The amount in controversy must be more than $75,000. So if there's something that you want to sue about and it has a value that's of more than $75,000, or the controversy is more than that, then you can take it to a district court. States may only bring criminal prosecution in state courts, and the federal government may only bring criminal prosecutions in federal court. Also, it is important to note that the principle of double jeopardy, and double jeopardy means it does not allow a defendant to be tried twice for the same charge. This does not apply between the federal and state governments. It does not apply between federal and state governments, double jeopardy. Now, moving on to the different courts and the descriptions of them a little bit more in detail. The district courts are the general trial courts of the federal court system. Each district court has at least one United States district judge appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate for a life term. Again, the president nominates the Supreme Court justices and then nominates the district judges, and they all serve life terms. All serve life terms. So again, when the president is of a particular party and they choose to fill in vacancies with judges they feel are more likely to see things from their perspective, then the imbalance of the justice system is at stake. You would hope that, again, judges will be fair, honest, and just in their decisions. District courts are the general trial courts of the federal court system, and the judges, 94 of them, are appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate for life. So when one leaves, the president gets the chance to appoint. Now, we don't hear about this oftentimes because a lot of fanfare is not made about when a district judge is nominated and selected by the Senate. It's not a big deal until decisions and court cases come before that district judge for it to be decided. We've had that happen of late. Circuit courts. Once the federal district court has decided a case, the case can be appealed to a United States Court of Appeal, which are our circuit courts. There are 12 federal circuits that divide the country into different regions. Additionally, the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals has a nationwide jurisdiction over very specific issues such as patents. Each circuit court has multiple judges ranging from 6 on the First Circuit to 29 on the Ninth Circuit. So depending on where you're located and depending on where your case is heard and depending on where you're appealing it, it can be heard by 6 judges or it can be heard by more than 6, up to 29. Circuit court judges are appointed for life by the president and confirmed by the Senate. So again, the president nominates, the Senate approves. The court judges are appointed for life by the president. They are appointed and confirmed by the president and the Senate. Again, the weight of our judicial system lies in the hands of these men and women. Again, when we talk about the men and women in our court system, all people want is fairness, truth, and justice to come out. That is all you want. That is all you can ask for. You don't want it to be biased because of other reasons, whether it be of culture, race, ethnicity, anything like that, political party. Just do it the right way and things should come out okay. And finally, after the Supreme Court or state Supreme Court has ruled on a case, either party may choose to appeal to the Supreme Court. Unlike circuit court appeals, however, the Supreme Court is usually not required to hear the appeal. So if they don't hear the appeal, it goes back to the ruling of the circuit court, and that's where it lies. Parties may file a writ of certiorari to the court asking it to hear the case. If the writ is granted, the Supreme Court will take briefs and conduct oral argument. If the writ is not granted, the lower court's opinion stands. Oftentimes, the writ is granted. Less than 1% of appeals to the higher courts are actually heard, and the court typically hears cases where there are conflicting decisions across the country on a particular issue, or when there is an egregious error in a case. An egregious error in a case. So those are our court system: district, circuit, supreme. You file your case with the district, which is where you have the trial. You appeal it to the circuit court. If you are not satisfied, you take it to the Supreme Court. They are not obligated to hear your case. If they choose not to, they go back to the appellate court or the circuit court, and that decision will stand. That's the way it lines up. That's the way it is. And that's the way it has been for a long time. And until something changes, which they are talking about wanting to change some of this, we will be under that system. This is the Kitchings Table here on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, heard every Tuesday morning here at 10 a.m. I am Earl Kitchings, your host. You can catch us live on Roku, GPAC, Facebook, and YouTube. We are always glad to see you, hear you. We welcome your calls and opinions and thoughts. Call to the station if you're interested in calling and giving your feedback on our subject today, which is the topic of supreme nomination. President Joe Biden has made history again with a Black female. The first was Vice President Kamala Harris, being the first African-American woman to serve as the Vice President of the United States of America. Now, as he made in his campaign promise, he would nominate an African-American female to the Supreme Court. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson has been nominated by the president. We'll await the interview process and the selection by the Senate for her appointment to the Supreme Court, and she will be the fourth woman to serve on the Supreme Court if that happens. And while we talk about the people who have served on the Supreme Court, as I shared with you earlier, since 1789, only 103 associate judges have served on the Supreme Court of the United States. In that time, 7 of them have been minorities in that time. And that has come since the 1960s, when the first judge of color, the Honorable, the late Thurgood Marshall, became the first person of color to serve on the Supreme Court. Thurgood Marshall. Then we had the first female to serve on the Supreme Court, Sandra Day O'Connor. She became the first female to serve on the Supreme Court. And then Clarence Thomas became the second African-American to serve on the Supreme Court when he was appointed back in the 80s. Since then, we have had several women to be appointed. Amy Coney Barrett, which was recent, the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Alana Keegan now serves, and Justice Sonia Sotomayor now serves. So there have been 5 women who have served on the Supreme Court, serve and or are serving. Totally, there are a total of 3 serving at the present time. There have only been 2 African Americans to serve on the Supreme Court. One serves at this time. So with the appointment of Justice or Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, she will make the 6th woman to serve on the Supreme Court in history and the 3rd African American to serve on the Supreme Court in the history of the United States. Although things come slowly at times, patience is a virtue, and she has been waiting for a long time. She said when she was growing up, she always wanted to become a Supreme Court justice. That dream is about to happen. And we hope and pray that the Senate will do the right thing this time, because when you look at how things happened for the former President Barack Obama when he tried to appoint the current Attorney General to the Supreme Court, the rank and file of the Supreme Court, of the Senate, filibustered that process to the point where Merrick Garland did not make it on the Supreme Court. So let's hope, let's pray that the Almighty will make it possible for this woman of color to join the other women on the Supreme Court so that she can make a difference. And whether she makes it onto the Supreme Court before they make a decision about overturning or staying Roe versus Wade is going to be critical. Again, politics will play a part of this, and we hope that the politics does not shadow it so that she does not have an opportunity, if they so decide to appoint her to the Supreme Court, that she doesn't have an opportunity to weigh in as a woman on this very, very important case of Roe versus Wade, which is in the balance in our Supreme Court as it stands right now. We also hope that the Supreme Court will weigh in on the facts of our voting rights in this country. They need to make sure that they do those things to ensure that people can have the right to vote. You know, many states are wanting to overturn this, change the maps so that they favor one party over the other. The more that one party, the Republicans, seem to control the state houses, the courthouses, the more the decisions for fairness and justice and truth seem to be at odds with where this country is from a diversity standpoint. We must change the mindset of this country in so many ways, because young people, as they are growing up, are going to be the game changers. Hopefully, they will be the game changers for a better America, so that this experiment of the United States of America that has been going on for 300 years almost can be done fair and equitably. We need that to happen because things are changing so rapidly. People are changing, viewpoints are changing to look at things from a very diverse and balanced standpoint. The slanted way of the past must fall. It must go down. And the Supreme Court and the district courts and the circuit courts are important keys to these actions and decisions when they come to becoming in front of the court system. So we pray that Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is appointed, and we hope that if she is appointed, she does what is necessary in order to make this country better as we go forward. So this has been our subject matter for today here on the Kitchings Table, the supreme nomination, the president standing up to what he promised in his campaign, that he would appoint or nominate an African-American female to serve on the Supreme Court. He has delivered on that. We hope that the Senate will follow that and deliver on providing this woman an opportunity, the first in the history of the United States that an African-American female can serve on the Supreme Court. And as the president has other opportunities to appoint judges at the district and perhaps circuit court levels, we would hope that any nominee who is appointed and selected has fairness in their minds and in their hearts. Understand that that is the crux of an ideal judicial system. Truth, justice, and fairness. That is all anyone who is in the court system who must face trial is asking for: a fair and just trial. Fair and just. Because oftentimes that has not been the case. When so many people of color have been sent to jail and or prison just because of their skin color, in many instances, it has not been justice is being blind. It seems as though the veil has been taken off and a finger or two has been on the scales to weigh against people of color in many circumstances. But I truly believe that with time, the generations the young generations now and the future generations of tomorrow, because they are coming up in diverse times, they're born to diverse parents. They cannot be so one-sided as to see it just from one viewpoint, because when they look at the fact that they're coming from such a diverse home life, they have to take that into account and understand that fairness, truth, and justice is the only thing that truly matters when it comes down to the outcomes of court cases. And the more this happens, the better this experiment will become. And as we continue, as we end our Black History Month of 2022, we must also maintain the fact that because this country is diverse, all people, no matter what their race, creed, color, gender, whatever, have the opportunity to speak and be heard. When those rights are taken away, when the rights to vote are taken away, when the rights to vote are minimized, when the court system is not going to hear the facts of the matter as it relates to important cases, especially the ones that it faces now, then where will this country be? This is a democracy, and we want and hope that it remains a democracy. A country that has survived this long will not survive long under an autocracy. It will not survive long under a dictatorship. We do not have a king or a queen to run the country. We are a democracy of the people and by the people and for the people. So we hope that our court systems will always take into account the fact that their decisions should be for, by, and of the people of the United States of America, and not fall for those who want it to be just for a particular few who do not have the mind and heart to accept people, no matter who they are and where they're from and what their decisions are for who they want to be. The great experiment continues, and it continues in many ways. And this Supreme Court that will now be appointed, this next appointment will help that diversity continue to move forward. So good luck to Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and we pray that favor will grace you and your family in the future. Well, that about brings me to the end of my show for today. I've enjoyed it as always. We talked about Supreme nomination and the Supreme Court system in our country. Hopefully, it brought some thoughts and insight to you. This is the Kitchings Table, heard every Tuesday morning on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, YouTube, Facebook Live, Roku TV, and GPAC 23. Until next Tuesday morning, I'm Earl Kitchings saying have a great week. Stay focused, stay positive, and stay strong. Until then, we'll